Every day holds the power to transform your life, but only if your actions are intentional and focused. By mastering routines, eliminating distractions, and prioritizing what truly matters, you can unlock consistent productivity, mental clarity, and lasting success. This channel delivers practical strategies, actionable advice, and proven techniques to help you take control of your time, energy, and goals. Subscribe now to gain insights that go beyond motivation, providing real tools to build unstoppable habits, sharpen focus, and accelerate personal growth. Start today and turn small daily actions into extraordinary results tomorrow. Number 1. Anchor mornings with powerful habits. The first hour of any day is not accidental. It is intentionally designed or carelessly surrendered. Choose design. Mornings are the anvil on which character is forged. Quiet, unglamorous work that accumulates into momentum. A powerful morning routine does not exist to impress others or to feel productive. It exists to create a margin of control, to clear the fog that makes every decision heavier than it needs to be. The practice begins not with awakenings but with decisions, the commitment to own the opening of every day. Start the evening before. The clearest mornings are born from simple, practical preparation. Decide tonight what tomorrow's first 3 non-negotiable actions will be. Lay out clothing, prepare a fast breakfast or set a timer on the kettle, and create a one-line list of the single most important task for the morning, the mission that cannot be postponed. This reduces decision friction when the body is still fogged, and the temptation to linger is loud. Habit stacks begin with small concrete promises kept repeatedly. Keep these promises and the person who makes them becomes someone trustworthy to themselves. When the alarm sounds, meet it with a movement that is neither frantic nor indulgent. Sit up, breathe deliberately for 1 minute. Deep inhales into the belly. Slow, full exhales that release tension. Drink a glass of water without sugar or explanation. Water returns volume to the blood and signals the body that the day has begun. Exposure to natural light within 30 minutes of waking rewires the circadian clock and sharpens focus. Open the curtains and let the sun touch the skin if possible. If light is not available, bright, cool light will do. Its purpose is to tell the body that night has ended and clarity is expected. Motion is essential. A short, deliberate sequence, 5 minutes of joint rotations, 10 minutes of walking, or 12 minutes of body weight movement, does more than burn calories. Movement brings oxygen to muscles and brain, clears grogginess, and provides an immediate sense of accomplishment. The sensation of lungs expanding, the slight ache of the first deep squat, the steady compression of the feet on the floor. These are embodied reminders that energy is available and action is possible. Keep the movement short but consistent. The goal is a return on discipline, not an invitation to exhaustion. Create a ritual to orient the mind with purpose. Write 3 things on paper: 1 gratitude, 1 priority, 1 affirmation. This practice is minimal but highly concentrated. Gratitude narrows perspective to abundance rather than complaint. The single priority directs focus to what will move the day forward. The affirmation, phrased in present tense and under control, anchors the Stoic principle of accepting what must be done and choosing how to meet it. For example, grateful for breath. Priority, complete the 60-minute writing block. I act with patient intensity. Writing by hand embeds intention deeper than a tap on a screen. Protect the morning from the bright, noisy pull of other people's agendas. Do not check email, social feeds, or news before the primary morning work is complete. The first digital contact should be earned, not given away. Use a simple boundary: no screens for the first 60. Replace the dopamine drip with disciplined outputs. Reading a brief passage of a classic, practicing focused work, or doing an uninterrupted creative block. The early hours are a temple for attention. Once attention is surrendered, the rest of the day becomes a negotiation. Design the environment to nudge the desired behaviors into motion. Remove clutter from immediate sight. Organize the workspace so the single priority is the most visible object. Place a water bottle and a notepad within reach. Small, sensory cues matter. The clean sound of a kettle, the texture of a pen, the sharp scent of citrus in the air. These create a context where action is easier than avoidance. The goal is to make the first step obvious, the second step automatic, And the third step, habitual. Automate the trivial. Decision fatigue is real and silent. Reduce the daily menu of small decisions by standardizing breakfasts, simplifying outfits, and batching administrative tasks to designated times. Use a consistent wake time within plus or minus 30 minutes even on weekends. This regularity stabilizes energy and builds a low-voltage discipline that is always available. Freedom grows from constraint. The fewer micro-decisions taken each morning, the more mental bandwidth remains for strategic work and calm presence. Use the principle of one true thing, a brief, high-value action that signals the rest of the day. For creatives, it could be writing the first 300 words before checking anything else. For leaders, a 10-minute plan that aligns the team's goals for the day. For health-focused people, a 20-minute exercise block. This is not an exhaustive to-do list. It is the declarative move that anchors the day. Commit to this one action, even on low-energy mornings. The promise to the self matters more than the size of the task. Build small, escalating wins. Habits grow strongest when they are easy to start and slightly challenging to sustain. Use habit stacking. After drinking water, do 2 minutes of breathing. After 2 minutes of breathing, stand and move. After movement, write the 3-line ritual. Each micro-step reduces resistance to the next. Celebrate the completion of the stack with a quiet acknowledgement, a nod, a breath, a whispered done. These tiny rituals accumulate into identity changes. Over weeks, the person who keeps these promises becomes someone who does not waste mornings. Practice premeditation of obstacles. Identify 1 or 2 likely interruptions and have a plan to meet them. If the mind hollows into scrolling, place the phone across the room in airplane mode. If the body protests with fatigue, reduce intensity but preserve sequence, short walk, light journal, brief priority statement. If external demands knock on the door, maintain the principle the first hour belongs to the practice that cultivates the rest of the day. Premeditation is not pessimism. It is preparation. Assume friction and design for it. This readiness breeds calm when friction inevitably arrives. Anchor the morning with short moments of reflection on values. Spend 2 minutes reading a passage that reminds the mind of purpose. A line from a philosopher, a brief paragraph from a mentor, a stoic maxim written on the wall. Translate that into action. What is the single embodied choice today that aligns with values? The question is not what will make me feel good, but what will make this day honorable. Answer simply and act immediately. Measure progress in terms that matter. Track the chain of mornings completed rather than the perfect execution of each one. Consistency compounds. Keep a visible chain or a simple calendar mark. When a morning deviates, treat it as data, not failure. Adjust one variable and repeat. The Stoic approach is to observe, correct, and persist with composure. Over months, the chain becomes a talisman of competence. Each mark reinforces identity. A sample practical routine might look like this, and can be adapted to personal constraints. Wake at a consistent time, sit upright and breathe for 1 minute, drink a full glass of water, open curtains and take in natural light, move for 10 to 20 minutes, write 3 lines, gratitude, priority, affirmation, complete one focused work block of 60 to 90 minutes on the most important task, then check messages. If time is scarce, compress the routine. Water, 1 minute breath, 2 minutes of movement, 1 line priority, then a concentrated 30-minute work sprint. The form can change. The principles remain. Begin with control, short and certain wins, and protect attention. Discipline is not punishment. It is a promise kept to the future self. The sensory memories of a practiced morning, the coolness of water on the lips, the warm strip of sunlight across the desk, the scratch of pen on paper, become anchors on difficult days. The routine trains not only habits, but temperament, steadiness under pressure, clarity under fatigue, the capacity to choose what matters. Finish the morning with a brief, deliberate handoff to the rest of the day. A deep breath, a glance at the 3-line note, and a quiet claim. This time was not lost. Confidence is a muscle that grows with repeated small triumphs. The person who takes the first hour seriously will find that urgency bows to discipline and that chaos yields to steady practice. Begin now with a single change that is both simple and non-negotiable. Tomorrow, wake at your decided time and perform the one action you promised tonight. Build the chain. Each morning is an opportunity to practice being the person intended by the life being led. The cumulative effect is not immediate drama, but an unshakable foundation. Over time, routines become reputation and reputation becomes destiny. Number 2. Eliminate distractions before daily work. Distractions are the silent thieves of progress, sneaking in unnoticed and stealing moments before they are even realized. They arrive not always as loud interruptions, but often as subtle temptations, notifications, wandering thoughts, unimportant emails, or the mindless urge to scroll. Each of these fragments chips away at focus and energy, leaving the day fragmented, outcomes diluted, and potential unrealized. The ability to eliminate distractions before daily work is not just a productivity tactic. It is an act of self-mastery, a commitment to protect the mind, and a declaration that time is sacred. Mastering this skill is less about removing external forces and more about conditioning attention, shaping environment, and creating internal barriers that prevent drift. The first step is acknowledging that distractions are inevitable but manageable. They are not signs of weakness, nor are they a reflection of intelligence or dedication. They are natural human tendencies that can be outmaneuvered with awareness and design. Start by auditing the common sources of distraction in your life. For many, the pull of digital devices is dominant. Phones buzzing with social updates, emails vying for attention, alerts announcing unimportant events. For others, it may be internal. Wandering thoughts, unresolved worries, or the habit of multitasking. Identifying these sources is the foundation of control, because what cannot be seen cannot be managed. Awareness alone begins the process of reclaiming focus. Once distractions are identified, the next step is containment. The physical environment matters more than most realize. A cluttered desk, noisy room, or open tabs on a computer act as constant micro-interruptions. Simplify the workspace. Remove everything that does not serve the immediate task. Keep only the tools required for work at hand, pen, notebook, laptop if necessary, and create a visual field that signals this is the zone of focus. The mind responds to cues. A clean, minimal environment reduces mental friction and keeps the eyes and attention from wandering. Every object outside the immediate task becomes a potential excuse to drift. Digital distractions require deliberate boundaries. Silence is powerful. Turn off non-essential notifications. Remove social media apps from mobile devices or place them behind multiple steps to access. Email can be scheduled in batches rather than treated as an omnipresent obligation. If apps or websites are persistent temptations, tools exist to temporarily block them during focus periods. The key is preemptive action. It is easier to prevent temptation than to rely on willpower mid-task. Attention is like a muscle. The more it is protected and exercised without interference, the stronger it becomes. Timing is crucial. The mind has natural peaks and valleys of energy. Identify the period when clarity and focus are highest and reserve it for the most important work. Morning hours, for many, provide a natural advantage. Begin the day by dedicating uninterrupted blocks to the primary tasks before the world has a chance to demand input. The strategy is simple: prioritize first, respond later. The discipline of delaying engagement with emails, messages, and social media ensures the first hours are aligned with creation, not consumption. Consistently protecting these windows transforms productivity from reactive to proactive. Mental preparation complements environmental adjustments. Begin the day with a brief ritual to signal to the mind that work is commencing. Take a deep breath, outline the key tasks, and set an intention to remain focused. Even a 2-minute meditation, visualizing the sequence of tasks without distraction, primes the mind for sustained attention. This mental rehearsal strengthens executive control, the ability to resist urges, notice interruptions, and return swiftly to the task at hand. Each repetition increases the likelihood of maintaining focus when the environment is imperfect or when internal resistance arises. Internal distractions, thoughts, doubts, or wandering attention are as potent as external ones. Train the mind to notice when it drifts without judgment, then guide it back gently but decisively. Writing down distracting thoughts in a brief capture notebook can free the mind without abandoning the work. By acknowledging and setting aside these thoughts for later, the brain no longer perceives them as emergencies demanding immediate attention. Over time, this practice builds mental resilience and reduces anxiety caused by attempting to juggle too many streams of attention simultaneously. Batching tasks reduces context switching, which is one of the most subtle and damaging forms of distraction. Each time the mind switches from one activity to another, even briefly, it incurs a cognitive cost. Combine similar tasks together, emails, phone calls, or small administrative chores, into designated periods rather than scattering them throughout the day. When creative or strategic work requires deep concentration, eliminate the possibility of interruption by isolating it from other responsibilities. Deep focus emerges when the mind is allowed continuity without fragmented effort. It is in this continuity that mastery and innovation flourish. The social dimension must also be considered. Colleagues, family members, or roommates can inadvertently become sources of distraction. Communicate boundaries clearly. Specify periods of quiet or do not disturb times. Physical signals, a closed door, headphones, or a simple note, communicate non-verbally that attention is reserved for high-priority tasks. Social expectations must be managed with discipline. Respecting others' time and focus often requires teaching them to respect yours. Over time, these boundaries become normalized, and interruptions become exceptions rather than the rule. Focus is reinforced by rhythm and habit, creating a consistent daily pattern where distraction-free work is non-negotiable trains the brain to anticipate and accommodate deep work automatically. Small, repeated victories accumulate into a resilient pattern of concentration. The repetition of protected work sessions strengthens attention, much like repeated exercise strengthens a muscle. Initially, resistance may be high. The urge to check notifications or indulge in small diversions will appear more urgent than the task itself. The strength of a disciplined routine gradually overrides this pull, making distraction less compelling and less habitual. It is also critical to design micro-rewards to maintain engagement. When distractions are eliminated and tasks are completed, allow brief intentional breaks, walk, stretch, or breathe deeply. The contrast between focused work and controlled rest reinforces the behavior, training the brain to associate attention with satisfaction rather than suffering. These moments are not indulgent. They are strategic calibrations of energy, allowing sustained performance without depletion. Over time, the mind learns to prefer focus because focus leads to measurable progress, clarity, and a sense of accomplishment. Reflecting on each day reinforces the practice. At the end of work sessions, review where attention lapsed and consider what environmental or mental adjustments could prevent recurrence. Record insights without judgment. Simply observe patterns. Perhaps a particular time of day invites mindless scrolling, or a specific app consistently breaks concentration. Use these data points to redesign the next session. Iterative improvement ensures that distraction management evolves rather than stagnates. The goal is not perfection, but continual refinement. Each step toward a distraction-free start compounds, shaping habits, self-discipline, and outcomes. The elimination of distractions before daily work is more than a tactical maneuver. It is a philosophical choice. It is a declaration that time is finite, attention is precious, and outcomes are worth protecting. Distraction is seductive because it is effortless, immediate, and emotionally appealing. Focus is demanding, invisible, and delayed in reward. Choosing focus over temptation cultivates resilience, strengthens character, and builds a life where meaningful work dominates over triviality. It is through this discipline that long-term achievement becomes possible, and excellence is no longer an accident. Practical application begins with small, deliberate steps. Silence non-essential notifications, prepare the workspace by removing clutter, batch minor tasks, identify prime focus periods, communicate boundaries to others, and practice brief mental rehearsals. Each action alone seems minor, but together they form a protective barrier around attention. Persisting in these steps daily builds a fortified mindset, where distraction is resisted not by chance, but by design. The mind becomes a controlled, deliberate instrument, rather than a reactive vessel tossed by impulses. Distractions are not enemies to be feared, but patterns to be understood and managed. By observing their triggers, limiting exposure, and constructing a disciplined routine, the mind achieves sustained clarity. Focus becomes a natural state rather than a battle. The deliberate choice to protect the early hours of work ensures that priorities are served, energy is optimized, and personal and professional growth is accelerated. Eliminating distractions before daily work is not merely a productivity strategy. It is a commitment to self-mastery, a declaration that life is to be lived with intention, and a foundation for achievement that is unshakable and unstoppable. The cumulative impact of disciplined focus cannot be overstated. Each distraction resisted is a victory over fragmentation. Each hour preserved is an hour invested in meaningful progress. Days of intentional, distraction-free work compound into months, and months into years, producing results that feel effortless, only because the foundation of focus has been relentlessly defended. The practice is challenging, but the rewards are exponential. A mind trained in attention, a life shaped by priorities, and the confidence of someone who controls their day before the world demands it. Number 3. Batch tasks for focused efficiency. Tasks are rarely isolated events. They exist within networks of related actions, each demanding attention and energy. Treating each task as a separate entity forces the mind into repeated shifts of focus, costing energy and fragmenting thought. The brain is most powerful when allowed continuity, when similar efforts are grouped and approached as a unified sequence. This is the principle of batching tasks, an often overlooked strategy that turns scattered effort into sustained efficiency. Batching is not merely organization, it is the deliberate structuring of time and attention to amplify output while preserving mental clarity. Mastery of this practice transforms busy days into deliberate, productive sequences. Start by identifying tasks that share context, tools, or mental processes. Emails, phone calls, administrative chores, or minor decision-making tasks are ideal candidates. These items are necessary but easily dispersed, making them prime sources of inefficiency when tackled individually throughout the day. Grouping them into a defined window consolidates energy expenditure. The principle is simple: perform similar cognitive operations consecutively rather than sporadically. Each switch between unrelated tasks incurs a cognitive cost, diminishes accuracy, and elongates completion time. Batching reduces these hidden losses, creating momentum that grows as the session progresses. The preparation phase is critical. List all tasks and categorize them by type or required focus. For instance, compile all correspondence into one batch, all errands into another, and all creative work into a separate segment. Estimate the time required for each group and allocate uninterrupted blocks in the schedule. The goal is not to fill every minute, but to allow deep immersion within each category. When the mind knows the boundaries of a batch, it can operate with a sense of safety and focus, free from the anxiety of pending unrelated tasks. Physical space reinforces batching. Align your environment to support the sequence of grouped tasks. For example, if the batch involves phone calls, ensure notes, scripts, and devices are ready, minimizing the need to break the session. For document-based tasks, have files, reference materials, and software open and accessible. Environment shapes behavior. Arranging the workspace for a specific batch reduces interruptions and allows attention to flow seamlessly from one item to the next. It is easier to sustain deep work when the tools for action are pre-positioned and the mind does not need to reorient repeatedly. Time blocks are essential to preserve the integrity of each batch. Assign a concrete duration to each group and resist the temptation to fragment the block. Use timers or visual cues to signal the beginning and end of each batch. By containing tasks within defined intervals, the mind develops a rhythm that enhances efficiency and focus. These boundaries also create urgency, a subtle motivator that discourages lingering and ensures completion. The discipline of observing time limits turns scattered effort into measurable progress and builds confidence in execution. Prioritization within batches maximizes impact. Begin each batch with the most critical or complex tasks, then move to less demanding items. This approach leverages peak energy and focus early in the session, ensuring that high-value work receives the attention it deserves. The completion of simpler tasks afterward maintains momentum while providing psychological reinforcement through a series of achievable wins. Strategic ordering within each batch aligns effort with both energy levels and importance, optimizing productivity and reducing stress. The cognitive mechanism underlying batching is the reduction of context switching. Every time attention moves between unrelated tasks, the brain expends energy reorienting, recalling relevant details, and reprioritizing. Batching minimizes these transitions, allowing sustained focus, faster execution, and higher quality outcomes. This principle applies across mental, emotional, and physical tasks. Even repetitive or mundane activities become more manageable when performed in sequence, because the brain anticipates the rhythm and can enter a state of fluent engagement. Integration of rest periods enhances batching efficiency. After completing a batch, take a short pause to reset attention, hydrate, and recalibrate. These micro breaks prevent cognitive overload, preserve energy, and reduce errors. Batches are most effective when separated by brief intervals rather than continuous unbroken effort, which can lead to fatigue and diminishing returns. The interplay of concentrated work, followed by restorative pause, amplifies both speed and quality of output. Batching also applies to decision-making. Small, frequent decisions consume mental bandwidth, subtly eroding focus and willpower. Group similar choices together, meal planning, minor purchases, scheduling, and address them in concentrated sessions. Automate or pre-decide as much as possible within these blocks to conserve energy for strategic, high-stakes decisions. This creates a cognitive reserve that protects critical thinking and prevents depletion. The result is clearer judgment and faster execution across the day's responsibilities. Flexibility within batching is important. Life presents interruptions, emergencies, and unexpected demands. While the structure is deliberate, it must accommodate adaptation without abandoning the principle. If a batch is interrupted, note progress, pause, and resume rather than dispersing tasks throughout the day. This maintains the integrity of focus and prevents the slippery slope of scattered attention. Batching is not rigid confinement. It is a disciplined framework that balances consistency with responsiveness. Reflection reinforces batching effectiveness. At the end of each day or week, review completed batches, note bottlenecks, and identify opportunities to improve sequencing. Consider which tasks naturally fit together, which require more or less time, and how energy levels impacted performance. Adjust the next day's batches accordingly. Iterative refinement strengthens both efficiency and self-awareness, creating a feedback loop where attention management evolves in sophistication. Over time, batching becomes an intuitive habit rather than a conscious strategy. The emotional component of batching should not be underestimated. Completing a sequence of related tasks generates a sense of accomplishment and control. The brain interprets completed batches as progress, reinforcing the behavior through subtle reward pathways. This psychological reinforcement creates momentum for subsequent batches and fosters confidence. Small, structured victories accumulate into a broader sense of capability and agency. The emotional impact amplifies the practical benefits, turning a mere technique into a foundation for discipline and sustained achievement. Advanced batching incorporates thematic grouping. Beyond simply grouping tasks by type, consider grouping them by context, required mindset, or sensory mode. Creative tasks may cluster together, analytical tasks form a separate group, and communication-oriented tasks occupy another. This allows the mind to enter distinct cognitive states, optimized for the type of work, further reducing friction and increasing depth of engagement. Over time, individuals learn to recognize which tasks naturally synergize, allowing intuitive and effortless sequencing that maximizes output. Batching reduces stress indirectly by creating predictability. When tasks are scattered, the mind remains partially occupied with unfinished responsibilities, generating tension. Grouping tasks into intentional blocks gives clarity on what will be done and when. This reduces mental clutter and allows focus to remain on the present task. Predictable structure lowers anxiety, strengthens decision-making, and improves resilience. In essence, batching is not only an efficiency tool, but also a mechanism for cultivating mental calm and composure. Practical application can begin immediately. Identify 3 task types that dominate your day. Assign each a dedicated window. Arrange tools and environment to support uninterrupted execution. And follow through. Time each batch. Take micro breaks and reflect afterward. Observe energy levels. Identify friction points and adjust sequencing. Gradually expand batching to include more areas of life: household chores, errands, learning, creative practice. The benefits compound as habits solidify, transforming fragmented effort into a predictable rhythm of productivity. Batching tasks for focused efficiency is a philosophy of intentional living. It rejects the chaos of reactive work, scattered attention, and fragmented energy. It embraces structure, rhythm, and purpose, transforming ordinary days into orchestrated sequences of accomplishment. The practice is deceptively simple yet profoundly transformative. By consolidating similar actions, respecting energy cycles, and protecting attention, one builds momentum that carries across every aspect of life. The outcome is not merely more work completed, but a mind trained in attention, a life governed by intention, and a capacity to achieve that grows steadily and reliably. Number 4. Track progress with measurable metrics. Progress is invisible without measurement, and without visibility, even consistent effort can feel aimless. Effort alone does not guarantee results. It only becomes meaningful when it is tracked, evaluated, and refined. Metrics are not merely numbers. They are reflections of action, insight into patterns, and instruments for deliberate improvement. Tracking progress with measurable metrics transforms vague ambitions into tangible evidence of growth. It illuminates the path forward, identifies gaps, and fuels motivation by making accomplishments undeniable. Anyone seeking mastery in life or work must adopt a method of precise observation, for the person who measures consistently controls trajectory. Begin by defining what matters. Not everything can or should be measured. Choose metrics that align directly with your most significant goals. Distinguish between activity and outcome. Logging hours spent working on tasks is informative, but capturing the output or impact of those hours is transformational. Identify the indicators that reveal whether the work truly advances your objective. For example, a writer might measure word count or chapters completed. An entrepreneur may track revenue or customer conversions, and a fitness enthusiast might focus on strength gains or endurance milestones. When metrics reflect meaningful achievement, they guide decisions rather than merely report effort. Quantify where possible. Numbers carry clarity that impressions cannot. Instead of noting, "I practiced marketing today," record, "I sent 3 outreach emails, published 1 post, and gained 2 new leads." This level of specificity converts a subjective impression into an objective snapshot. Metrics allow comparison across time, revealing trends that inform strategy. They highlight whether progress is accelerating, stagnating, or declining, enabling a conscious response rather than reactive guesswork. In essence, numbers are a compass in a landscape of action, offering orientation when intuition alone falters. Consistency in tracking is critical. Sporadic measurement produces incomplete data, which misleads rather than informs. Make recording progress a routine, integrated seamlessly into daily workflow. Choose a system: digital spreadsheet, dedicated app, or handwritten journal that is reliable and accessible. The method is secondary to consistency. What matters is that data is collected continuously and accurately. Over time, the accumulation of records forms a map of behavior and results, revealing the precise contours of effort and effectiveness. Use metrics to create micro goals. Large objectives often feel distant and intangible, leading to procrastination or fatigue. Breaking progress into measurable increments makes achievement visible and manageable. Each metric serves as a checkpoint, a tangible marker along the journey. Celebrate the completion of these mini goals. Recognition reinforces behavior, builds momentum, and maintains psychological engagement. Progress measured becomes progress celebrated, generating motivation through evidence rather than emotion alone. Visualization strengthens comprehension of metrics. Seeing progress in graphs, charts, or visual sequences translates raw numbers into patterns that the mind absorbs intuitively. Tracking completion over time, whether by a line chart of output, a bar graph of milestones, or a simple checklist, provides immediate feedback and contextual understanding. The visual element converts abstract effort into a story of growth, making it easier to identify strengths, weaknesses, and trends. It is not merely recording, it is storytelling through data, turning ordinary effort into a narrative of advancement. Metrics provide clarity on efficiency. By analyzing tracked data, inefficiencies become visible. Certain strategies or behaviors may consume disproportionate time with limited impact. Measurement highlights these discrepancies, allowing recalibration. For example, if hours invested in a task produce diminishing returns, a reassessment of method, timing, or resources is warranted. Without tracking, wasted effort remains hidden, quietly draining energy. With metrics, inefficiency is exposed, enabling focused improvement. The principle is simple. What can be observed can be optimized. Combine quantitative and qualitative measures for holistic understanding. Numbers reveal output, but perception, satisfaction, and qualitative impact are equally valuable. Recording observations alongside measurable metrics, such as the quality of work, engagement level, or personal energy, creates a richer picture. These complementary dimensions ensure that progress is not solely a numeric game, but a meaningful reflection of growth, capability, and fulfillment. Insight arises where quantity and quality intersect, guiding refinement and reinforcing intention. Accountability enhances metric effectiveness. Sharing measurable goals with a mentor, team, or peer group increases adherence and clarifies expectations. Public or semi-public tracking introduces a social layer of discipline, turning self-monitoring into structured commitment. Accountability need not be punitive. It simply converts awareness into responsibility. The knowledge that progress is visible externally reinforces internal discipline, reducing the likelihood of neglect or rationalization. It is an added force that strengthens the internal commitment already cultivated through consistent tracking. Reflection is an integral companion to measurement. Metrics alone are inert unless reviewed, interpreted, and acted upon. Regular reflection, daily, weekly, or monthly, transforms raw data into insight. Ask, what does this trend indicate? Where did momentum falter? Which behaviors produce the greatest results? Reflection identifies cause and effect, transforms patterns into lessons, and guides the selection of next steps. It converts accumulation into strategy, repetition into refinement, and effort into mastery. Without reflection, numbers remain static. With it, they guide evolution. Integrate measurement into the rhythm of work rather than treating it as a separate chore. Begin or end sessions by noting achievements, discrepancies, and deviations. Small, consistent inputs prevent overwhelm and make review meaningful rather than burdensome. Embed it into habit loops. After completing a task, record its metrics. After finishing a block, analyze trends. By entwining measurement with execution, the process becomes seamless, unobtrusive, and sustainable. Habitual recording and assessment ensures that momentum is not lost and that each day contributes clear data to the broader trajectory. Metrics illuminate the path forward. They provide feedback loops that refine effort and guide allocation of resources. Rather than relying on subjective feeling, decision-making becomes evidence-based. When multiple strategies or projects compete for attention, measurable results clarify priority, revealing where energy produces maximal effect. This clarity prevents distraction, reduces wasted time, and cultivates focus. In practice, tracking progress transforms uncertainty into deliberate choice and scattered energy into directed effort. Adopt a mindset where metrics are neither punitive nor celebratory alone. They are informative. Avoid interpreting minor fluctuations as failure. Interpret them as data. Patterns emerge over time, not from isolated points. The purpose is to learn, adjust, and continue moving, not to create pressure or paralysis. A single day's results do not define capability. The trajectory over weeks and months reflects consistent practice, focus, and resilience. Viewing metrics as guides rather than judgments transforms their utility into empowerment. Long-term accumulation magnifies the impact of measurable tracking. Days recorded and reflected compound into weeks, months, and years, revealing growth invisible in daily perception. Achievements that once seemed small become significant when seen collectively. The discipline of measurement compounds both skill and confidence. The mind, trained to observe objectively, learns to make intentional choices rather than react to circumstance. Progress track becomes a visible manifestation of persistent effort, reinforcing identity as someone committed to improvement and mastery. Practical application begins with a single measurable indicator aligned to a priority goal. Decide what matters most, determine how to quantify it, and commit to consistent recording. Start small and refine over time, integrating qualitative notes alongside numbers. Use visual representations to enhance comprehension. Reflect periodically to draw lessons and adjust. Expand gradually to other domains, maintaining focus on what truly reflects meaningful progress. Each measurement session transforms abstract intention into concrete evidence, creating a chain of accountability, learning, and growth. Tracking progress with measurable metrics is an act of discipline and clarity. It converts uncertainty into insight, chaos into structured advancement, and effort into evidence. Metrics are not mere numbers, they are instruments of self-awareness, accountability, and continuous improvement. Those who master the practice of measurement gain a reliable compass, guiding them toward consistent achievement, intentional growth, and mastery of both tasks and self. Over time, tracking progress ceases to be a habit and becomes a lens through which all action is oriented, ensuring every step taken is deliberate, meaningful, and forward-moving. Number 5. Design evenings for restful recovery. Evenings are the silent architects of tomorrow. How one ends the day often determines the quality of the next morning, the clarity of thought, and the resilience of body and mind. Too often, evenings are surrendered to distraction, endless scrolling, or unfinished work, leaving the mind cluttered and the body restless. Designing evenings for restful recovery is not indulgence. It is strategic preparation for peak performance, emotional stability, and sustained energy. Recovery is the soil from which productivity, creativity, and discipline grow. Without it, effort becomes shallow, attention fragmented, and results sporadic. The practice of intentional evenings transforms fatigue into renewal, chaos into calm, and routine into a regenerative cycle. The first step is acknowledging the physiological and psychological nature of recovery. Sleep is the most critical component, but rest extends beyond the mere act of lying down. Hormonal balance, nervous system regulation, and mental decompression all contribute to restoration. The body and brain operate on cycles. Without alignment, even sufficient sleep may fail to restore clarity and vigor. Recovery begins with preparation, signals to the body and mind that the day is concluding and renewal is approaching. The transition is deliberate, not abrupt. Environmental design is foundational. Lighting, noise, temperature, and comfort all signal to the nervous system that it is time to wind down. Bright, harsh lighting suppresses melatonin production, delaying sleep onset. Warm, dim lighting cues relaxation. Eliminate unnecessary noise or replace it with calming sounds such as low instrumental music, white noise, or ambient nature sounds. Temperature should be comfortable, slightly cooler than daytime activity levels, supporting the body's natural drop in core temperature that facilitates sleep. The environment communicates readiness for rest before the mind consciously realizes it. Digital hygiene is essential. Screens are not passive tools. Their blue light and content stimulation actively inhibit recovery. Designate a technology cutoff at least an hour before bed. Notifications should be silenced, devices placed out of reach, and engagement with work-related platforms halted. Instead, replace screen time with restorative activities that require minimal mental arousal, yet engage the senses positively. Reading printed material, journaling, light stretching, or gentle music. Boundaries around digital input prevent mental hyperactivity and support the transition into a state of calm focus necessary for deep rest. The evening routine should include physical decompression. A brief session of stretching, mobility exercises, or yoga can release muscular tension accumulated throughout the day. The sensations of lengthening, gentle resistance, and blood flow to muscles communicate to the body that active work has ended. Physical movement at a controlled, restorative pace signals the nervous system that stress has been managed and fatigue is safe to follow. These micro-rituals prepare the body for sleep while creating awareness of bodily presence and alignment. Mental decompression is equally critical. Evenings often carry residual stress from work, social interaction, and personal challenges. Allow a structured opportunity to process and release the day's cognitive load. Journaling is a practical tool, noting accomplishments, unresolved issues, and priorities for tomorrow externalizes thought, reducing mental clutter. Meditation or deep breathing exercises calm neural activity, lower heart rate, and signal safety. Reflection should be purposeful but not obsessive. The goal is closure, not rumination. By consciously letting go, the mind clears space for restoration rather than carrying unfinished threads into sleep. Nutrition impacts recovery significantly. Eating too close to bedtime, consuming heavy meals, or ingesting stimulants like caffeine disrupt natural cycles. Opt for light, balanced intake in the evening, emphasizing nutrients that promote relaxation and stable blood sugar. Herbal teas, minimal sugar, and foods rich in magnesium or tryptophan can aid in nervous system regulation and sleep readiness. Hydration should be adequate but not excessive, preventing disturbances from late-night awakenings. Attention to diet complements behavioral and environmental strategies for effective recovery. Consistency is a pillar of recovery. The body thrives on routine, particularly the circadian rhythm. Going to bed and waking at roughly the same times each day regulates hormone cycles, stabilizes energy, and enhances alertness. Variability introduces friction to sleep onset, deep sleep phases, and next-day cognitive function. A consistent evening routine acts as a ritualized cue for the nervous system, making rest more efficient and restorative. Over time, adherence to a predictable schedule reinforces natural biological rhythms, reducing the need for conscious effort to wind down. Incorporating deliberate downtime that nurtures the mind without overstimulating it. It is crucial. Engage in creative yet low-intensity activities, such as sketching, reading, or listening to music. Avoid news, social media, or high-stakes work that keeps the mind alert. These restorative activities occupy attention gently, satisfying curiosity without triggering stress responses. The subtle balance between engagement and relaxation promotes mental recovery, preventing the habitual overactivation that undermines restorative sleep. Emotional regulation is part of evening recovery. Stressful interactions, unresolved tension, or emotional overload accumulate throughout the day. Implement small practices that allow emotional processing and release. This can include reflective writing, breathing exercises, or intentional conversations that conclude unresolved matters. Forgiveness, gratitude, and acknowledgement of small wins create emotional closure, reducing cortisol and sympathetic nervous system activation. Emotional decompression transforms evenings from reactive endings into proactive preparation, setting a psychological stage for calm sleep and renewed motivation. Planning for the next day enhances mental freedom. Identify priorities, schedule critical tasks, and note essential appointments before disengaging from work or obligations. This externalization of future responsibility frees cognitive bandwidth, preventing mental rehearsal from intruding into restorative processes. Knowing that tomorrow has a framework reduces anxiety, supports sleep onset, and reinforces self-efficacy. Evening planning does not extend work but rather contains it, establishing boundaries that respect both productivity and recovery. Sensory cues consolidate the evening routine. A warm shower or bath, soft music, scented candles, or gentle lighting signals to the body that transition from activity to rest is underway. These cues are subtle yet powerful, conditioning the mind to anticipate sleep and relaxation. Repetition of these cues nightly strengthens their effect, turning the body into a responsive system that enters restorative states with minimal conscious effort. Habitual signaling fosters smooth, consistent recovery and reinforces the identity of someone disciplined in self-care and preparation. Limit stimulating conversations or intense work near bedtime. Even positive but emotionally charged discussions can elevate arousal levels, delaying restorative processes. Choose neutral, calming interactions if necessary, or schedule meaningful discussions for earlier in the day. The principle is not avoidance of human connection, but management of emotional energy to protect recovery. Boundaries around interpersonal stimulation are an advanced strategy for optimizing cognitive and emotional restoration. Progress tracking complements recovery design, monitors sleep quality, duration, and perceived restfulness to understand what adjustments maximize benefit. Minor tweaks, adjusting bedtime, light exposure, or pre-sleep activity, create measurable improvements. Observing outcomes encourages adherence to routines, validates practices, and informs refinements. Metrics provide accountability, turning subjective feelings of rest into actionable feedback loops, reinforcing behavior and building confidence in one's capacity to manage recovery intentionally. Recovery is cumulative. Each evening shapes the subsequent day's clarity, mood, and performance. Neglecting it results in fatigue, irritability, and diminished output, while deliberate design amplifies energy, focus, and resilience. Establishing a structured, restorative evening routine is an investment in future capability, not a passive luxury. Over time, consistent evenings create a momentum of wellness and mental acuity that amplifies every action taken the following day, making excellence habitual rather than accidental. Begin with incremental changes. Introduce one restorative habit tonight, dim the lights, silence notifications, or perform a brief reflection. Add elements progressively until the evening is intentionally structured, balancing mental, physical, and emotional decompression. Small, deliberate steps compound over weeks into a full, habitual routine. The discipline of preparation nurtures a feedback loop. Rest enhances performance, which strengthens motivation to protect recovery, creating sustainable cycles of high-functioning days. Designing evenings for restful recovery is an act of self-respect, foresight, and strategy. It transforms the passive end of a day into an active preparation for excellence. By controlling environment, behavior, and mental state, the evening becomes fertile ground for restoration. Sleep is deepened, stress dissipates, and energy is replenished. Over time, this deliberate approach reshapes not just nights, but days, decisions, and long-term performance. Recovery is not passive. It is cultivated, defended, and refined. Intentional evenings are the quiet power behind unstoppable productivity, resilience, and sustained achievement. Number 6. Automate decisions to save energy. Every day, countless decisions compete for attention, from trivial choices like what to wear or eat, to significant ones about work priorities or personal commitments. Each decision, no matter how small, consumes a fragment of mental energy. Over time, this accumulates into what psychologists call decision fatigue, a quiet erosion of willpower that makes even important choices feel heavier and more taxing. Energy is finite, attention is limited, and the most effective individuals recognize this reality. Automating decisions is not about removing freedom. It is about preserving energy for high-stakes choices, enhancing focus, and creating space for clarity and creativity. Begin by identifying recurring decisions that demand little creativity but still consume energy. Meals, clothing, commuting routines, household chores, and even responses to routine messages often fall into this category. While these decisions may seem inconsequential individually, their cumulative effect drains cognitive resources. Automating them transforms energy expenditure from conscious deliberation into habitual action. Habit is not laziness, it is efficiency. When the mind is spared trivial choice, it can devote itself fully to strategic thinking, problem solving, and creative engagement. The simplest form of automation is standardization. Clothing is an obvious example. Establish a consistent wardrobe or outfit rotation, particularly for work or high-performance periods. This eliminates daily deliberation and creates a mental shortcut. Dressing becomes a routine, not a decision point. Similarly, meals can be standardized through meal planning, pre-preparation, or repeated rotation of healthy options. By limiting variables in low-value areas, the brain reserves attention for matters that truly require deliberation. Standardization reduces stress and removes small obstacles that subtly interfere with focus. Digital life offers vast opportunities for automation. Scheduling emails, recurring payments, Notifications and reminders can all be systematized. Filtering messages, categorizing tasks, and prioritizing alerts ensures that attention is drawn only when meaningful action is required. Automation here is not passive. It is intentional delegation of cognitive load to systems designed for efficiency. Technology, when leveraged deliberately, becomes a tool to protect attention rather than a source of distraction. Predefining routines digitally creates consistency, reduces interruptions, and shields mental energy for deeper work. Routines themselves are automation mechanisms. By structuring the day around predictable sequences, many decisions are pre-decided. Morning rituals, work blocks, exercise, and evening recovery sequences reduce cognitive load. Each sequence, when repeated, signals to the brain that action is expected and direction is clear. The mind no longer has to negotiate the start of every task. Instead, it operates within a framework where effort is directed automatically. This predictability does not reduce flexibility. It creates a stable baseline from which conscious choices can emerge strategically. Automating responses is another effective strategy. Frequently asked questions, routine communications, and repeated work processes can be templated or pre-written. By having scripts or systems in place, time and energy are saved while consistency improves. This is particularly relevant in professional settings where repetitive interactions occur daily. Automation ensures clarity and precision, while protecting attention for tasks that demand original thinking. The goal is not to remove interaction, but to streamline predictable components, leaving cognitive space for complexity. Decision boundaries preserve energy. Recognize which decisions truly warrant deliberate thought and which can be automated or delegated. For instance, choosing when to exercise, what to eat for lunch, or which minor administrative tasks to complete need not occupy the mind moment to moment. Setting firm rules or systems for these choices ensures they are handled efficiently. The brain is relieved from constant evaluation, and mental energy becomes available for strategic decisions that carry long-term consequences. Boundaries convert chaos into structured freedom. Automation also benefits long-term planning. Financial decisions, recurring investments, subscriptions, and saving strategies can be systematized. Establishing automatic contributions, scheduled transfers, or recurring bill payments reduces the need for repeated oversight. Similarly, project management and workflow systems can track progress and send reminders without requiring constant mental monitoring. In both personal and professional life, reducing repetitive decision-making frees bandwidth for critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving areas where human intelligence is irreplaceable. Energy saved through automation compounds over time. Each decision avoided is a fragment of cognitive reserve, preserved. This cumulative effect manifests in sharper focus, higher quality decisions in critical areas, and greater resilience under stress. The mind, unburdened by trivial deliberation, can sustain attention longer, maintain emotional regulation, and operate at peak efficiency. Automation, therefore, is not a shortcut. It is a deliberate strategy to multiply effectiveness by protecting the most valuable resource, mental energy. Mindful delegation complements automation. When systems or habits cannot handle certain tasks, delegation allows others to act on routine matters. Delegation is a form of energy preservation, ensuring that effort is concentrated where it matters most. Effective delegation requires clarity in standards and expectations, which transforms reliance on others into a predictable, dependable system. When combined with automated routines, delegation creates a network of consistent action that shields attention from low-value decision-making. Monitoring and refining automated systems ensures they remain effective. Regularly review routines, digital tools, templates, and delegations to identify inefficiencies or changes in circumstance. Automation is not set and forget. It requires observation and adjustment. As habits solidify, minor tweaks can enhance efficiency and reduce friction further. By systematically evaluating automated choices, the individual ensures that systems serve evolving needs rather than becoming stagnant or counterproductive. This continuous improvement reinforces both productivity and strategic control. Psychological benefits of automation are profound. Decision fatigue often manifests as indecision, procrastination, or impulsive behavior. By automating low-stakes decisions, the mind experiences consistent clarity and reduced stress. Confidence increases as fewer choices lead to fewer regrets, and daily navigation feels smoother. Energy, once fragmented across minor options, becomes available for deliberate action. The result is a disciplined, resilient mindset, capable of sustaining high performance across domains without depletion. Behavioral sequencing enhances automation. Pairing automated decisions with habitual triggers strengthens the process. For example, drinking a glass of water upon waking, followed by a set morning routine, removes the need for daily negotiation of these actions. Similarly, consistent placement of workout gear, pre-prepared meals, or scheduled digital checks reinforces behavioral loops. Sequencing transforms isolated automated actions into integrated systems that operate with minimal conscious effort, amplifying efficiency while reducing mental friction. Automation extends to mindset and emotional management, pre-deciding responses to common challenges, establishing coping mechanisms for stress, and maintaining predetermined frameworks for handling conflict or setbacks preserve cognitive and emotional energy. This reduces reactive decision-making and increases intentionality. By scripting how one approaches recurring psychological challenges, the mind remains available for strategic evaluation rather than being trapped in repetitive cycles of indecision or emotional drain. The practice of automating decisions requires discipline and foresight. It is a deliberate act of preserving the mind's most powerful resource, attention. Each decision avoided is energy reclaimed, each routine repeated is focus reinforced, and each system implemented is freedom protected. Automation is not about avoiding responsibility. It is about choosing where responsibility is exercised. The individual who masters automation operates from a position of clarity, efficiency, and elevated capability, unencumbered by the tyranny of trivial choices. Practical application begins with observation. Track daily decisions for 1 week to identify repetitive, low-impact choices. Categorize them for potential automation or delegation. Implement simple systems for clothing, meals, communication, and routine tasks. Introduce digital tools and templates to streamline predictable actions. Establish boundaries that prevent decision creep and reinforce priority. Regularly evaluate and adjust to improve effectiveness. The cumulative effect of these small, intentional actions is substantial, producing sustained mental energy, increased focus, and enhanced overall performance. Automating decisions transforms the ordinary structure of life into a strategic framework of energy management. It converts repeated deliberation into consistent, predictable behavior, allowing attention to be allocated to decisions that truly matter. Energy is preserved, focus sharpened, and resilience strengthened. Over time, automation compounds, creating a life where deliberate choice dominates, mental resources are protected, and productivity flows effortlessly. The person who masters this principle moves through the day with clarity, purpose, and efficiency, turning limited energy into unstoppable momentum and transforming ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. Number 7. Reward consistency. Not just results, consistency is the invisible engine behind every extraordinary achievement. Results are celebrated because they are visible and tangible, but they are often the outcome of processes that occur over weeks, months, or years. Focusing exclusively on outcomes ignores the foundation, the repeated actions that compound into mastery. The most reliable path to excellence is to recognize, reinforce, and reward the act of showing up, performing the work, and maintaining disciplined habits, regardless of immediate payoff. Without honoring consistency, motivation becomes fragile, progress sporadic, and the potential for long-term achievement diminishes. Rewarding the process cultivates resilience, reinforces identity, and transforms small actions into enduring success. Begin by defining what consistency looks like in your context. Identify the behaviors, routines, or practices that directly contribute to growth, skill development, or health. These may include daily exercise, disciplined work blocks, reading, focused practice, or journaling. By clarifying what consistent behavior entails, It becomes possible to recognize it, track it, and celebrate it without relying on external outcomes. The act itself becomes a point of pride, creating intrinsic motivation that is less vulnerable to external fluctuation or immediate reward. Tracking consistency is a practical tool for reinforcement. Maintain a simple system to record adherence to key behaviors. This could be a calendar, journal, or app where each successful execution is marked. Visualizing streaks, chains, or sequences creates a tangible representation of reliability. Every mark is evidence of discipline, a mini victory that reinforces the value of showing up. Over time, these records become more powerful than sporadic results, providing proof that commitment exists, independent of external circumstances. The mind begins to associate consistent effort with identity, which drives further action. Rewarding consistency requires reframing success. Traditional reward structures often focus on output, milestones, or external recognition. These are valuable but limited. True progress emerges from repeated engagement and the cultivation of habits. Small intentional celebrations, acknowledging completion of a day's practice, a week of disciplined routines, or consistent adherence to a plan, strengthen the neural pathways associated with reward. This builds motivation anchored in the behavior itself rather than the transient outcome. Each recognition reinforces the habit loop: cue, action, reward, repeat. The emotional impact of rewarding consistency is profound. Outcomes are subject to forces beyond control: market shifts, competitive dynamics, biological factors, or timing. Without internal reinforcement of consistent behavior, disappointment or frustration undermines motivation when results lag. By focusing on the actions under one's control, energy is directed towards sustainable factors, cultivating a mindset of agency. This approach nurtures patience, resilience, and the ability to persist through challenges, knowing that effort is inherently valuable, regardless of immediate visible payoff. Consistency strengthens identity. Repeated actions shape self-perception, gradually embedding a sense of reliability, competence, and discipline. The person who exercises daily, writes consistently, or practices a craft systematically begins to see themselves as someone who follows through. Identity-driven motivation surpasses outcome-driven motivation in longevity. When behavior is tied to who one believes they are, performing the actions becomes automatic and less reliant on fluctuating inspiration or results. Rewarding consistency accelerates this identity formation, making disciplined action habitual and self-reinforcing. Implementation requires clear definition of what constitutes success within consistency. Specify criteria for completion, frequency, and quality. For example, reading for 30 minutes daily counts regardless of the number of books finished. Exercising for 30 minutes counts even if physical performance varies. Writing 500 words daily counts even if they require editing later. By delineating boundaries, recognition becomes consistent and fair, focusing on the act rather than subjective evaluation. Clear standards prevent ambiguity and encourage sustained engagement. Build external accountability into the practice. Sharing progress with a mentor, coach, or peer reinforces consistency through social recognition. Announcing streaks or updates publicly or within a trusted circle adds an additional layer of reward and accountability. Social reinforcement strengthens the habit loop and provides encouragement on days when intrinsic motivation falters. This external acknowledgement complements internal tracking, creating multiple feedback channels that enhance persistence and resilience. Use micro-rewards strategically. Immediate small-scale rewards reinforce repeated effort. A brief break, a moment of reflection, or a simple acknowledgement of accomplishment can solidify the neural association between effort and positive feedback. Unlike outcome-based celebrations, these rewards are consistently attainable and do not depend on variables outside control. Micro-rewarding builds momentum, nurtures motivation, and makes adherence to routines psychologically satisfying, reinforcing the habit over time. Recognize that progress is nonlinear. Outcomes may lag, plateau, or appear inconsistent, but consistency ensures that cumulative effort compounds. Rewarding the act of persistence, rather than judging its efficacy by immediate results, preserves morale and commitment. The compounding effect of small, repeated actions magnifies over time, producing mastery, skill, and achievement that surpass sporadic bursts of high performance. By emphasizing consistency, the focus shifts from short-term results to long-term growth, where effort accumulation drives tangible improvement and personal transformation. Reflection enhances the practice of rewarding consistency. Periodically review habits, routines, and adherence, and acknowledge both successes and areas for reinforcement. Reflect on the effort invested and the challenges overcome rather than simply the outcome. This process deepens self-awareness, strengthens discipline, and creates a feedback loop that informs future behavior. Recognition of consistency builds confidence, sustains motivation, and cultivates a mindset of continuous, deliberate improvement. Consistency also provides psychological stability. In unpredictable environments, the ability to maintain disciplined routines creates a sense of control and security. Recognizing this reliability, rewarding adherence, and reinforcing habitual action reduces anxiety and stress associated with fluctuating outcomes. This stability enables clear thinking, deliberate planning, and focused execution, enhancing overall effectiveness and well-being. Consistency becomes a stabilizing force, anchoring identity and effort amid uncertainty. Integration with long-term goals is essential. Treat consistent behaviors as foundational blocks that accumulate into larger achievements. While results may serve as milestones, they are dependent on the underlying process. By rewarding consistent actions, attention is directed toward controllable variables that reliably generate success. Each completed action is an investment in capability, momentum, and identity, creating a sustainable path toward long-term objectives. Process-focused rewards strengthens patience and aligns daily action with strategic outcomes. Flexibility within consistency is important. Life is unpredictable, and rigid adherence without consideration of circumstances can create stress. The reward system should acknowledge effort and persistence, even when modifications are required. Adaptations due to context do not undermine consistency. They reflect strategic judgment. Rewarding adaptability within a consistent framework strengthens resilience and reinforces the underlying principle that repeated intentional engagement is more valuable than rigid conformity. The cumulative psychological effect of rewarding consistency is transformative. Over time, the brain internalizes the value of repeated action. Motivation shifts from external incentives or variable results to intrinsic satisfaction derived from doing the work reliably. This self-reinforcing loop strengthens focus, reduces procrastination, and creates momentum that is resistant to disruption. Individuals develop a reputation for reliability, competence, and perseverance, further amplifying opportunities and outcomes. Consistency becomes both a habit and an identity trait, shaping every aspect of performance. Practical application begins with small, deliberate actions. Identify 1 to 3 behaviors to prioritize for consistent execution. Track adherence daily, celebrate completion, and reflect on effort invested. Use micro-rewards, external accountability, and clear definitions of success to reinforce the practice. Expand gradually, embedding additional routines and increasing complexity as initial behaviors solidify. Over time, the cumulative effect of rewarding consistency generates not only mastery in specific domains, but also a disciplined, resilient mindset applicable across life. Rewarding consistency, not just results, reframes the relationship between effort and achievement. It transforms daily actions into a source of intrinsic motivation, cultivates identity aligned with disciplined behavior, and generates momentum that compounds over time. Results become natural consequences of sustained action rather than the sole criteria for validation. The person who consistently shows up, performs the work, and honors the process builds mastery, resilience, and unstoppable forward motion. Consistency, recognized and reinforced, is the foundation upon which all lasting success is built, and celebrating it ensures that progress endures beyond the fleeting nature of immediate outcomes. Number 8. Visualize goals to boost motivation. The human mind is most powerful when it can picture the future it desires. Visualization is more than daydreaming. It is a deliberate technique that connects goals to emotion, focus, and action. By vividly imagining the outcome you seek, the brain begins to recognize pathways, opportunities, and necessary steps that may otherwise go unnoticed. Motivation is amplified when goals are not abstract concepts, but tangible mental images that evoke emotion, clarity, and urgency. Visualization transforms the invisible into a perceptible target, aligning subconscious perception with conscious intention and preparing both mind and body to act decisively toward achievement. Start by defining the goal in concrete terms. Vague aspirations, such as, "I want to be successful," lack direction and fail to stimulate the mind effectively. Instead, clarify the specifics. What does success look like, feel like, and involve? Describe it with sensory detail. If the goal is career advancement, visualize the office, the conversations, the tasks, and the recognition received. If it is physical fitness, imagine the strength, the endurance, and the exact milestones achieved. When the goal is detailed, the mind has a blueprint to work from, making progress more attainable and motivation more immediate. Visualization should engage emotion as much as detail. Emotions act as a bridge between thought and action. When imagining a goal, feel the excitement, pride, relief, or satisfaction associated with accomplishment. The body reacts to emotional stimuli, increasing focus and activating neural pathways that reinforce determination. Feeling the desired outcome creates a magnetic pull that guides behavior in alignment with goals. Motivation is no longer external or fleeting. It becomes an internal force that propels action consistently, even when external validation is absent. The practice of visualization benefits from routine integration. Set aside dedicated moments daily to vividly picture your goals. The mind, when given repeated exposure to a desired state, begins to operate as though the outcome is already partially realized. This mental rehearsal primes the brain for problem solving, anticipates obstacles, and identifies strategies, making real-world execution more fluid and confident. Routine visualization strengthens commitment and maintains clarity of tusuk, across distractions, competing priorities, and fatigue. Sensory engagement deepens the effectiveness of visualization, incorporates sight, sound, touch, and even smell in the mental imagery. Imagine the texture of materials, the tone of voices, or the environment surrounding the accomplishment. Sensory detail makes the goal feel real, convincing the subconscious that it is attainable. When the brain perceives something as possible and familiar, it aligns behaviors to support the imagined reality. This sensory immersion bridges the gap between abstract desire and concrete action, turning motivation into an actionable force. Visualization is also a tool for preparation and strategy. By mentally rehearsing each step required to reach a goal, the mind identifies challenges, necessary resources, and timing considerations. Scenarios that could cause hesitation or failure are addressed mentally before they occur in reality. The act of visual problem-solving builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and strengthens decision-making. When challenges arise, prior mental rehearsal allows for quicker, more effective responses, as the mind has already navigated similar circumstances in a controlled mental space. Combining visualization with written goals amplifies impact. Documenting the objective, the steps to achieve it, and milestones creates a tangible reference. Reading and mentally rehearsing this written representation consolidates commitment, bridges intention with action, and strengthens memory of the process. Written goals also act as anchor points for visualization sessions, allowing the mind to focus on both strategy and outcome simultaneously. This integration transforms abstract ambition into a structured mental framework for achievement. Emotionally linking rewards to visualization enhances persistence. Each imagined milestone should be accompanied by the satisfaction, pride, or relief experienced upon achieving it. By mentally rehearsing not only the process, but the emotional consequences, motivation becomes self-sustaining. The brain begins to associate effort with emotional gain, reinforcing behaviors that drive progress. Visualization thus operates as both a map and a reward system, making action compelling even in the absence of immediate external feedback. Visualization can be combined with environmental cues to increase adherence. Place reminders, images, or symbols of the goal in visible areas to trigger mental rehearsal throughout the day. These cues act as consistent nudges, strengthening neural pathways associated with motivation and keeping the desired outcome in constant mental focus. When the mind is frequently reminded of the vision, action becomes more aligned, priorities are clarified, and distractions lose their power. The brain is subtly guided towards sustained, deliberate effort. Practical application begins with selecting one goal to focus on. Spend 5 to 10 minutes daily closing the eyes and visualizing the goal in intricate detail. Include sensory elements, emotional responses, and actionable steps. Mentally navigate obstacles and anticipate solutions. Reinforce this practice by connecting it with cues, such as first thing in the morning or before work sessions. Track adherence to ensure consistency. Over time, the mind becomes trained to operate in alignment with the envisioned reality, making execution smoother, faster, and more precise. Visualization also strengthens belief in possibility. Many fail not because of skill or opportunity, but because of doubt. Seeing success repeatedly in the mind reduces uncertainty, builds confidence, and frames challenges as surmountable. The brain interprets repeated visualization as experience, creating neural patterns similar to actual accomplishment. This prepares the body and mind to act decisively, reduces hesitation, and promotes resilience under pressure. Motivation is fortified because the goal is no longer a distant abstraction, but a familiar, anticipated state. Integration with action is critical. Visualization without implementation is ineffective. It primes the mind but does not produce results alone. Combine mental rehearsal with small measurable actions that move toward the goal. Let visualization guide prioritization, resource allocation, and problem solving. Use it to assess strategy, rehearse timing, and anticipate obstacles. Each imagined step reinforces confidence, while each real step reinforces mental clarity, creating a cycle of action and reinforcement that accelerates progress. Visualization is particularly effective when paired with reflection. After each day, review steps taken toward the goal, visualize the next stage, and anticipate challenges. This dynamic feedback loop enhances learning, maintains motivation, and ensures that daily action aligns with the long-term vision. Visualization becomes a compass that directs effort, providing clarity in the fog of competing priorities and distraction. The brain, primed by mental rehearsal, identifies opportunities and solutions that might otherwise go unnoticed. The cumulative effect of consistent visualization is profound. Goals that once felt distant and intangible acquire clarity, emotional resonance, and strategic structure. Motivation becomes intrinsic, driven by the vividness and familiarity of the desired outcome. Action becomes more deliberate, confident, and aligned with priorities. Challenges are anticipated rather than feared. Energy is directed rather than diffused, and momentum builds steadily. Visualization converts the abstract into the concrete, transforming hope into deliberate movement and intention into measurable progress. Practical mastery of this approach requires daily engagement, deliberate sensory immersion, and emotional connection. Pair mental imagery with environmental triggers, written documentation, and reflective practice. Anticipate obstacles, rehearse solutions, and link progress with emotional satisfaction. Over weeks, the brain internalizes the vision, creating neural pathways that reinforce commitment, clarity, and focus. Motivation becomes automatic rather than fragile, sustained by the vivid presence of the desired outcome in the mind's eye. Visualizing goals is not a passive exercise. It is the deliberate alignment of mind, emotion, and action toward a desired state. It bridges intention with execution, clarifies priorities, and strengthens resilience. The individual who masters visualization experiences consistent motivation, heightened strategic awareness, and increased capacity to act decisively. Over time, repeated mental rehearsal transforms ambition into achievement, energy into action, and vision into reality. It is the invisible engine that propels effort, sharpens focus, and turns goals from distant possibility into tangible certainty. Number 9. Prioritize tasks by highest impact. Time is finite, Attention is limited, and energy is not infinite. Every day, countless tasks demand effort, each claiming space in the mind and on the schedule. Without discernment, focus becomes fragmented, progress slows, and energy dissipates on matters of minor consequence. Prioritizing tasks by highest impact is not simply a productivity technique. It is a strategy to align action with value, ensuring that effort generates meaningful outcomes. The most effective individuals recognize that the significance of work is not determined by busyness or volume, but by the tangible influence each task has on goals, growth, and results. The first step in prioritization is clarity of objective. Tasks cannot be effectively ranked without understanding what constitutes meaningful progress. Define what matters most in both the short term and long term. Identify goals that carry weight in personal development, professional success, health, or relationships. With clear criteria for impact, tasks become more than items on a list. They become opportunities to advance toward purpose. High-impact tasks are those whose completion disproportionately contributes to desired outcomes, while low-impact tasks are often busy work or distractions disguised as productivity. Evaluate tasks based on consequence, leverage, and alignment. Consequence refers to the tangible effect of completing a task. Will it move a project forward, generate income, or produce measurable progress? Leverage considers how many other areas benefit from its completion. Does finishing this task simplify other work or unlock opportunities? Alignment assesses whether the task serves long-term goals and values. The combination of these factors creates a framework for discerning which actions warrant immediate attention and which can be deferred or delegated. Use a structured approach to ranking tasks. Tools such as the Eisenhower matrix, impact effort grids, or simple priority lists can provide clarity. The key is to objectively categorize tasks into high, medium, and low impact. High impact tasks are the pillars of progress and should claim first attention and peak energy. Medium impact tasks are important but not urgent and can be scheduled strategically. Low impact tasks may be delegated, automated, or eliminated entirely. Structuring work through a lens of impact transforms a chaotic to-do list into a roadmap of meaningful action. Time allocation must reflect impact. Dedicate the most focused and energetic portions of the day to high-impact work. Morning hours or peak concentration periods are ideal for strategic thinking, problem-solving, or tasks with substantial consequences. Less demanding periods can be reserved for medium-impact work, administrative duties, or routine activities. This alignment between task significance and mental energy ensures that critical work receives the attention it deserves and prevents high-value opportunities from being squandered on trivialities. Decision-making clarity improves with impact prioritization. When faced with multiple competing demands, evaluating which action carries the greatest consequence reduces hesitation and prevents reactive behavior. The mind can operate from a framework of value rather than pressure, freeing mental energy for execution rather than deliberation. Impact-based prioritization is a proactive approach. It identifies what truly matters and allocates resources to maximize results, rather than allowing urgency or external pressures to dictate action. Delegation amplifies the principle of high-impact focus. Tasks that do not require personal expertise or have lower consequences can be assigned to others. Delegation preserves energy, ensures critical work receives concentrated attention, and leverages the skills and time of a broader team. Effective delegation requires clear communication, defined expectations, and accountability. By filtering tasks through an impact lens, the most valuable use of personal attention is safeguarded, while routine work continues efficiently through others. Eliminating distractions and low-value tasks is an essential complement to prioritization. Many low-impact tasks masquerade as urgent but do little to advance meaningful goals. Email chains, unnecessary meetings, trivial administrative chores, or habitual checking of notifications consume energy without proportional return. Recognize these activities for what they are, and either remove, automate, or delegate them. The effort freed by eliminating low-impact work amplifies focus and ensures that high-impact activities are performed with maximum effectiveness. Continuous assessment strengthens impact-based prioritization. Goals evolve, circumstances change, and the relative value of tasks shifts over time. Regularly reviewing priorities ensures that attention remains directed toward what matters most. Weekly or daily reflection, combined with objective evaluation of results, enables adjustment in task focus, scheduling, and energy allocation. This dynamic approach prevents stagnation, reduces wasted effort, and reinforces the principle that high-impact work drives sustainable progress. Emotional reinforcement enhances prioritization. Completing high-impact tasks provides psychological satisfaction far beyond the mere act of checking items off a list. The sense of accomplishment is compounded because these tasks move the needle in meaningful ways. Recognizing this connection between effort and consequence strengthens motivation, reinforces disciplined behavior, and nurtures a mindset attuned to effectiveness rather than busyness. High-impact focus creates a feedback loop where achievement and motivation reinforce one another. Complex projects benefit from breaking tasks into impact-driven components. Even within large undertakings, some actions are more consequential than others. Identify the critical path, the sequence of tasks that drives the project forward. Attend to these first, ensuring that effort is not wasted on secondary activities that do not materially contribute. By consistently prioritizing what matters most, momentum builds, bottlenecks are reduced, and progress accelerates. This focus creates an environment where high-stakes goals are approached with clarity, discipline, and strategic foresight. Energy management interacts directly with task impact. High-impact work often requires deep focus, creativity, or decision-making. Attempting these tasks when energy is depleted diminishes quality and efficiency. Conversely, low-impact tasks can occupy lower energy periods. Prioritization ensures that personal energy is applied where it produces the greatest return, maximizing both productivity and effectiveness. This alignment of task importance with energy availability reinforces intentional action and prevents wasted effort. Accountability reinforces high-impact prioritization. Share plans, progress, and results with a mentor, colleague, or team. External observation adds motivation and sharpens commitment, making it more likely that high-impact tasks receive attention before distractions encroach. Accountability transforms the theoretical framework of priority into a lived practice, ensuring follow-through and measurable results. It complements internal discipline with social reinforcement, strengthening both execution and mindset. Prioritization by impact is also a mental training tool. Over time, consistently evaluating tasks for consequence, leverage, and alignment sharpens judgment, decision-making, and strategic thinking. The brain becomes skilled at recognizing opportunities, anticipating bottlenecks, and identifying what actions will generate the most value. This skill compounds, making high-impact focus increasingly intuitive and automatic, and creating a mental environment optimized for deliberate action and meaningful results. Practical application begins with a daily inventory of tasks. List every responsibility, commitment, and project for the day. Evaluate each based on consequence, leverage, and alignment with long-term goals. Highlight the top 2 to 5 high-impact tasks and dedicate peak energy toward completing them first. Schedule medium-impact work appropriately and consider delegating or eliminating lower-impact items. Reflect at the end of the day on adherence and outcomes, adjusting priorities for subsequent days. Over time, this practice internalizes the habit of impact-focused decision-making. Prioritizing tasks by highest impact is not merely an efficiency technique. It is a method of living intentionally. It ensures that energy, focus, and time are applied to the areas that generate the most meaningful progress. It cultivates discipline, clarity, and strategic foresight, transforming chaotic schedules into deliberate sequences of purposeful action. By consistently attending to what matters most, distractions are minimized, effort is amplified, and goals are approached with precision and confidence. High-impact prioritization turns finite resources into powerful instruments of achievement, creating momentum that drives both immediate results and long-term mastery. Number 10. Reflect nightly, Adjust tomorrow strategically. The conclusion of each day is as crucial as the beginning, for how one closes the day directly shapes the effectiveness and clarity of tomorrow. Reflection is not a passive act of recollection. It is a deliberate process of observation, assessment, and strategic planning. Taking time nightly to review what occurred, what was achieved, and what obstacles arose, allows for conscious learning, refinement, and adaptation. Without this practice, patterns repeat unnoticed, mistakes accumulate, and opportunities slip away. Nightly reflection transforms experience into insight and experience alone into evolution. It turns the passing hours into a continuous feedback loop, equipping the mind with knowledge and foresight to act with precision in the future. Begin by reviewing the day's accomplishments and shortcomings objectively. Avoid judgment or self-criticism. The goal is clarity, not guilt. Identify which actions advanced goals effectively and which consumed time without significant return. Evaluate priorities, decisions made, and responses to challenges. By assessing both success and failure, patterns emerge, showing where energy is best allocated and where adjustments are necessary. This process trains the mind to see life as a series of learnable experiences rather than random events, making insight from reflection a powerful tool for continuous improvement. Recording reflections is a practical strategy for maximizing insight. A journal, digital notes, or simple checklist provides a tangible record of behavior, decisions, and outcomes. Documenting observations consolidates learning, creates accountability, and allows for longitudinal tracking of progress. Each entry captures patterns that might otherwise escape memory, revealing trends in productivity, emotional regulation, decision-making, and focus. Over time, these records become a resource for strategic planning, showing where consistent effort yields results and where adaptation is needed. Reflection without recording risks insight lost to the noise of daily life. Analyzing decisions made throughout the day sharpens judgment. Reflect on choices that produced positive results and those that did not. Identify the underlying reasons, timing, preparation, approach, or focus, and consider how similar situations can be handled more effectively in the future. This process strengthens decision-making capacity by transforming experience into structured understanding. Each night becomes an opportunity to refine the mind's internal algorithms, enhancing efficiency, foresight, and adaptability in both personal and professional contexts. Incorporating both quantitative and qualitative review enhances reflection. Measurable outcomes, such as tasks completed, milestones reached, or metrics achieved, provide concrete evidence of progress. Subjective experiences, energy levels, emotional state, satisfaction, or engagement reveal insights into personal effectiveness and sustainable practices. By combining both types of assessment, reflection becomes holistic, encompassing the tangible outputs and the intangible conditions that influence performance. This dual perspective ensures adjustments address both action and context, fostering balanced improvement. Identify obstacles and bottlenecks experienced during the day. Pinpoint factors that impeded progress, whether external distractions, inefficient processes, or internal resistance. By naming these obstacles, you create the foundation for proactive problem solving rather than reactive frustration. Nightly reflection transforms challenges into lessons, converting moments of difficulty into sources of strategic advantage. Understanding why energy was diverted or attention faltered allows deliberate planning to minimize recurrence and optimize flow for the following day. Strategic adjustment is the natural companion to reflection. Once patterns, successes, and obstacles are recognized, translate insight into action by planning tomorrow deliberately. Decide which tasks should be prioritized, which strategies need adaptation, and which habits require reinforcement. Adjust scheduling to align energy with impact, shifting focus to high-value actions while reducing or delegating low-value ones. Strategic planning based on reflection ensures that the next day is not left to chance, but constructed as a deliberate opportunity for progress. Emotional and cognitive regulation benefits from nightly reflection. Processing experiences before sleep prevents lingering stress, overthinking, or unresolved tension from interfering with rest. Journaling or mental review allows the mind to release residual cognitive load, promoting calm, clarity, and recovery. Emotional decomposition strengthens resilience, prepares the nervous system for restorative sleep, and primes the mind for alertness and creativity upon waking. Reflection is therefore both an analytical and restorative practice, enhancing mental and physical readiness for the future. Consider long-term patterns alongside daily assessment. Reflection is not solely about a single day, but about continuity over time. Compare current performance with previous days to detect progress trends, recurring challenges, or improvements in efficiency and focus. This long-range perspective provides context, preventing overreaction to isolated outcomes, and highlighting persistent strengths and weaknesses. Strategic adjustment is strengthened when informed by both immediate experience and longitudinal awareness, allowing more nuanced, evidence-based decisions. Reflection also reinforces accountability and integrity. By reviewing actions nightly, commitments to oneself are made tangible. This self-monitoring fosters discipline, consistency, and trust in personal capability. Even small incremental observations, when accumulated, strengthen the psychological framework of reliability, self-respect, and purpose-driven action. Integrity of effort grows because the mind becomes attentive to alignment between intention and action, reinforcing conscious choice over habitual drift. Practical strategies amplify nightly reflection. Begin with a brief review of objectives for the day, marking achievements, obstacles, and deviations. Ask targeted questions. What went well? What required excessive energy or caused delays? Which tasks had the highest impact? Which behaviors or choices need adjustment? Conclude by planning tomorrow. List top priorities, allocate peak energy periods, and incorporate lessons from today. This structured approach ensures that reflection translates into actionable strategy rather than abstract contemplation. Visualization enhances strategic adjustment. While reflecting, imagine executing tomorrow's tasks under improved conditions, informed by lessons learned. Anticipate obstacles, rehearse responses, and preemptively allocate resources. This mental rehearsal creates readiness, reduces anxiety, and strengthens confidence. The combination of reflective insight and forward-looking visualization creates a proactive, rather than reactive, mindset, turning observation into preparation and understanding into action. Refinement over time is critical. Nightly reflection is not static. Methods evolve based on effectiveness. Some days may require deeper analysis, others brief review. Adapt the practice to context while maintaining discipline. Experiment with questions, journaling formats, or timing to maximize insight and applicability. Continuous refinement ensures reflection remains impactful, relevant, and aligned with evolving goals and challenges. Consistency is the cornerstone of this practice. A single night of reflection produces insight, but cumulative nightly reflection produces mastery. By embedding evaluation and adjustment into daily routine, the mind becomes trained to identify patterns, anticipate consequences, and act strategically without conscious strain. Over weeks and months, the habit of reflection compounds into heightened awareness, improved planning, and accelerated progress. Strategic adjustments become automatic, refined, and increasingly precise. Nightly reflection is a safeguard against drift. In the absence of deliberate review, momentum can dissipate, priorities blur, and repeated mistakes erode progress. Reflection ensures alignment between action and intention, enabling conscious course correction. It converts experience into actionable intelligence, energy into directed effort, and routine into a feedback-driven mechanism for continuous improvement. Each evening becomes an opportunity to reclaim control, enhance discipline, and strengthen the trajectory toward meaningful goals. The cumulative effect of reflecting nightly and adjusting strategically is transformative. Over time, decisions become sharper, energy allocation more efficient, priorities clearer, and performance increasingly aligned with intention. Goals are approached with foresight, resilience is strengthened, and each day builds on the last. The practice converts lived experience into a self-directed growth engine, ensuring that momentum is intentional, progress measurable, and every action serves the broader vision. Nightly reflection and strategic adjustment are acts of empowerment. They turn observation into intelligence, learning into application, and habit into mastery. The individual who embraces this practice closes each day with insight, clarity, and foresight, and begins the next with confidence, purpose, and focus. This cycle transforms ordinary routines into a disciplined, high-impact rhythm of self-improvement, ensuring that progress is continuous, effort is purposeful, and success is the natural consequence of deliberate, reflective, and strategic action.